and welcome to PlayStation Grenade. Star Wars Battlefront 2 had its final update recently. To commemorate this and to celebrate its arrival on PS Plus, we're going to check out its secrets. From a loot box pay-to-win minefield to a cherished multiplayer masterpiece brimming with content. Now's the time to jump back in and look at 25 secrets, Easter eggs and references to the movies. We are starting with the final secret added to Battlefront 2, and the most complicated unlockable you'll encounter, which is Rey's resilient skin, by the way. For this to work, you'll need to be in a co-op mission at Maz's castle on Takodana. You'll find this graffiti on the side of the building, which we need to translate. But don't worry, I got you. It reads, "The pirate is hiding something." If you know this map, you'll know inside the castle is a painting of the infamous pirate Hondo Ohnaka. Now simply shoot the painting to receive this token. Grab it and run over to Jango Fett's ship in the wooded cove. Listen up when you arrive for this sound.
We stopped the first order assault here.
Close by you'll find 3 interactable buttons. Here's the order you need to press them. Left, right, center. If everything's running to plan, a coin noise will sound about now. Suddenly, 3 lights will have turned on above the tents in front of you, and they flash differently. 5 flashes on the left, none in the middle, and 1 on the right. So the code here is 501. This is a nod to the 501st Legion, and if you're not a Star Wars mega nerd, don't worry, I'll help you out. Run back into Maz's castle and you'll spot a whole bunch of flags. The 501st one is in there somewhere. That's the one just there. Now we simply need to stand on that flagpole. Easier said than done. Follow where I jump off if you're struggling, and once you're on that flag, turn round and you'll see a button in the wall which can be interacted with. Push it. Now, just like Rey did on the silver screen, go into the basement and you'll be able to open the room where she found Luke's lightsaber. Look, that's the box there! And at this moment, you'll also receive the unlockable skin. But that's not it, there's one more Easter egg in here. Look around and you'll see this painting. It's not just any painting, this is the team that created this game over the last 3 years. Forever immortalized in video game form. A brilliantly long Easter egg with tons of movie and lore references and a touching payoff and unlockable skin. Simply brilliant. Unsurprisingly, given how lovingly designed so many of them are, the multiplayer maps contain a bunch of secrets and Easter eggs of their own. Head into the cantina on Mos Eisley and you can activate the infamous Cantina Band. Sure, it's only a hologram, but I wouldn't want to play a show in the middle of a war, would you? In the Generator Room map, for the Heroes and Villains mode, you can see where Darth Maul's iconic battle with Obi-Wan Kenobi and Qui-Gon Jinn took place at the end of The Phantom Menace. Unfortunately, you can't get very close to those red doors, and Qui-Gon Jinn isn't even a playable character in Battlefront 2, which means you can't recreate that amazing scene. Sad times, bro. How about a few more iconic movie locations that have been squeezed and hidden into maps? On the Yavin 4 map, you can find the Death Star briefing room from A New Hope, while over on the Starkiller base map, you might stumble across the interrogation room where Kylo Ren held Rey in The Force Awakens. By the way, in the film, the stormtrooper that she overwhelms is actually Daniel Craig. Yeah, James Bond, in Star Wars, confirmed. Oh, and back to Takodana. Look out for the Millennium Falcon. You can't get very close to it, but it's pretty damn cool. Now let's check out the solo campaign, as it's full of references, Easter eggs, and nods to the wider Star Wars universe. Seriously, the amount of effort the writers put into linking almost every story beat to another movie, book, comic book, or game is just ridiculous. So let's dive in. In the game's opening moments, during the mission The Cleaner, Iden escapes the clutches of her captors with the help of her ID-10 droid. In fact, it's ID-10's awesome eavesdropping skills that give us our first tidbits of canonical content. While in the ship's ventilation system, we not only hear the voice of legendary characters Admiral Akbar and Lando Calrissian, but also the Corona Squad.
Yeah, they're bringing in everyone. Gold Squadron, Green Squadron, Corona Squadron.
You may not have heard of this group of starfighters, but they were actually present during the Battle of Hoth. Don't get me started on why that planet should be called Kolth. While also being the group to first learn of the construction of the second Death Star, as we learned in the novel Lost Stars. Anyway, before we leave the ship, Iden actually makes her way through an Alliance briefing room where we see a holo projection of Admiral Akbar. Yeah, it's a trap! Dude, to a normal person like you and I. He's outlining the plan of Operation Yellow Moon, and Yellow Moon is actually a mission undertaken by Princess Leia herself before the Battle of Endor, again in another novel called Moving Target. Slightly later on, after Iden and her squad witness the destruction of the second Death Star from Endor, the Empire are working on a new plan, courtesy of a creepy interaction with one of the late Emperor's messenger droids. We learn of the dead leader's final command, the immediate beginning of Operation Cinder. This is where a metric ton of Star Wars stories came together in a particularly spectacular way. Operation Cinder first appeared in the Shattered Empire miniseries of comics, and was a backup plan that Emperor Palpatine devised to ravage the planets should he ever be killed. The idea was to use a series of satellites that were in orbit around those planets to create extreme forms of weather, like electrical storms, to leave them in ruin. What's really cool here is that lots of the dialogue is directly taken word for word from those comics.
Operation Cinder is to begin at once. Resistance, rebellion, defiance.
Now, I need to throw out a spoiler warning. Here's a major twist in Battlefront 2's story, so go away now if you don't want it spoiling. Go on, get lost. Things get really interesting when Iden and her partner in crime Del Meeko defect from the Empire and aid the efforts of the rebel fleet in actually preventing the efforts of Operation Cinder. As the satellites target the planet of Naboo, Del and Iden join their new comrades in attacking those satellites, trying to protect the planet. They are not alone in their efforts. See those 3 yellow N1 starfighters? Those are piloted by none other than Leia, Queen Saruna of Naboo, and Shara Bey, the mother of Poe Dameron. Oh, and speaking of Iden's defection, while you're on the mission The Storm, keep an ear out for this trooper, who can't help but make reference to the brilliant RPG Nier Automata.
Sector 2B, all units advance on Sector 9S.
For those who are wondering, 2B and 9S are the names of the protagonists in that game, which puts this one beyond the realms of coincidence for me. Okay, so we've taken a closer look at Iden's story and its ties to all things Star Wars, but she's not the only star of the show in Battlefront 2's campaign. Other legendary characters like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo also get their time in the spotlight, and both sequences feature some pretty cool moments too, like this scene inside one of Palpatine's vaults on Pileo, where Luke and Del come across a compass which Luke seems pretty adamant on keeping.
I'd like to keep this compass, if you don't mind.
While this compass is a surprisingly important item in Star Wars terms, I'd be pretty impressed if anyone actually recognised it at first glance. That's because it doesn't really show up again until the movie The Last Jedi, where it can be briefly seen inside Luke's hut. In fact, some people have speculated that it's the compass itself that led Luke to Acto. As for Han's misadventures on Takodana, during the mission General Distress, well, let's just say the whole level feels like one big Easter egg. Everywhere you go, you'll be hit over the face with references and nods. So let's try and rattle through them quickly, shall we? Han bumps into an old friend who discusses a job that has connections to the Zerka Corporation.
After you left me stranded during the Zerka job? Not a chance.
A galaxy-spanning manufacturer of droids and weapons, best known for their part in the Star Wars game Knights of the Old Republic, which is brilliant by the way, and so is its sequel. We hear references made to a bunch of different drinks on the way out of Takodana too, including Port in the Storm, a wine from the planet of Pamarth, Huttslayer Splash, a beverage which seems to get its name from Princess Leia's, ability to slay huts. And finally, Merazane Gold, an amber alcoholic drink seen throughout the galaxy.
He can afford to drink Merazane Gold?
Must be nice, right?
There are also a few references you can pick up from various conversations Han can linger around to hear. This pair of characters talk about a purple Wookiee with green eyes, which is probably someone misidentifying a Lasset from the planet Lyra San.
Big green eyes. And he was sort of purple.
Based on Battlefront 2's place in the timeline, this is likely Zeb Orrelios from the Star Wars Rebels series. But you guys might be more familiar with another Lasat, the Jedi Master Jaro Tapal, who was instrumental in the training of his Padawan, Cal Kestis, the protagonist from Jedi Fallen Order. Whew. That was a heavy reference, but we got there in the end. Here we overhear mention of an individual named Gallius Rax, who first appeared in the Aftermath book series.
Particularly for one gentleman, name of Rax, if you know him.
Rax was also the commander of the Ravager, the Executor-class Star Dreadnought that crashed on Jakku, only for Rey, Finn and BB-8 to fly the goddamn Millennium Falcon through it whilst evading the First Order in The Force Awakens. Another conversation Han can overhear makes mention of the Black Sun.
Still moving cargo for Black Sun?
A powerful crime syndicate that first appeared in Shadow of the Empire, the classic N64 game from 1996. Oh my word, I still remember that game. I hate being old so much. And how about one more for good luck? Before you take Han over to his conversation with Paldora, hang around a little to hear the latter's attempt at a bit of Wookiee speak. I promise you, it's so worth it. See, I wasn't messing around when I said Han's time on Takodana was basically a guided tour through the furthest reaches of the Star Wars universe and its lore. Even his completely bizarre beard is a kind of Easter egg too, as the overgrown chin strap is another thing referenced in the Aftermath series, where Han travels around with his other furry companion, Chewie. In fact, one of the only major Easter eggs that Han doesn't get in this part of the game is his famous quote, "I have a bad feeling about this." Han may get to proclaim this line in A New Hope, Return of the Jedi and The Force Awakens, but in Battlefront 2, he leaves this honour to our friend Lando Calrissian, who puts his own spin on it for good measure.
You have a bad feeling about this. I'd be worried if you didn't.
As we push on through the rest of the story, we get to see levels that fans of the recent movies may recognise. Of course, there's the famous Battle of Jakku, where Iden hears a whole bunch of radio chatter that ties into other Star Wars stories, including the Phantom Squadron, fan favourite character Snap Wexley, and even the Lost Star's own Thane Kyrell.
Phantom Squadron inbound on the Empire's ground defenses. Wedge, Snap, take out those cannons and keep us clear in the stars.
When Del and Iden are flying through Bespin, they discuss what they're going to do after all this is put to bed. Del mentions visiting the planets Lothal and My Capo, which are both very important locations in Star Wars Rebels.
I thought I might travel. See the galaxy, Lothal, My Capo.
You've been to those places.
Then there's the campaign's epilogue, where we find out that Del Meeko was actually a Scarif shore trooper, working on the same beaches that would host the amazing battle at the end of the brilliant Rogue One. Don't bother rewatching the scene to look for him though. Del's time on Scarif was over long before the movie was set. Finally, let's put a bow on the campaign by looking at two quick Easter eggs that pop up in the Resurrection expansion, which was released shortly after Battlefront 2 hit store shelves. During these missions, Iden finds out about Project Resurrection, a stormtrooper recruitment program that's being operated by the First Order. In these conversations, we learn that the program is partly taking place in the Otomok system, which is the home of sisters Paige and Rose Tico from The Last Jedi and Rise of Skywalker. In fact, Rose even mentions the presence of the First Order on her planet while she's hanging out at Canto Bight with Finn during The Last Jedi. That being said, I won't judge you if you're not keen on going back to rewatch that portion of the movie. It was pretty pointless. Later, at the end of this mini-campaign, Iden discovers the schematics for a First Order dreadnought and promptly delivers it to the Resistance to give them the upper hand. Then, what do you see in The Last Jedi? Poe Dameron executes an unexpected strategy when the Resistance later comes up against a dreadnought, leading to its final demise. Coincidence? I very much doubt it. Star Warsy enough for you? No? Well, how about a good old Wilhelm screen to make it better? There you go, everything's better. So, that's the campaign done and dusted then. Don't worry, you can breathe now. I don't know about you, but when I see the credits roll at the end of the game, I can't help myself but jump into the list of trophies to see which ones I picked up along the way. If you end up doing this in Battlefront 2, keep an eye out for a few more references, including a trophy named Dark Forces, another shout out to a classic Star Wars video game. So there we have it, 25 Easter eggs, secrets and hardcore nods to Star Wars culture and lore. If I missed anything, please whack it down in the comments below and I'll give you a heart to get you noticed. I'm Adam from PlayStation Grenade. Live long and prosper. See ya!